We've all got guitars that are special to us for one reason or another, whether they're a rare collectible piece, whether they're a cool, funky vintage instrument, whether they just sound really good and they're a reliable workhorse, or whether there's some sentimental value attached to them. And every now and then you get these instruments which kind of combine all of those facets, and I want to tell you about the guitar that does that for me. Probably the guitar that I guess is the most in sync with my personality and the way I like to play guitar, and probably the guitar that, I don't want to say I'm someone who has a signature sound, but whatever the closest thing to that is, for me, is this guitar, my PRS SC245, and you guys have seen this a lot in my demo videos. If you've been following the channel at all, you know I play this guitar all the time. If you've been following my work with Ragdoll, you also know that I use this guitar all the time, and yeah, just figured I would tell you guys a little bit about it because it's such a cool instrument, and I always get questions about it because people seem to really like the way this sounds with my particular rig. So let's flash back about 5 years, and Ragdoll went to the States in May 2014. We did a 21-date tour. To date, it's been the most successful and the most intensive tour we've ever done. Any other tour we've done since, we've kind of scaled back because of this one. So we did I think 21 shows in about 4 weeks, and there was a run, I always remember, of 15 shows in 14 days, which was completely mental. And the year before, I had met my now wife, who was living in Dallas, in Texas. So before the tour, I figured, we were sort of doing the long distance thing, and I went a couple of weeks early before the band was going to start the tour, just to spend some time with her and, do the things that you do, basically spend time with one another, which was in really short supply since the time we had actually met the year before. So I was over in Dallas, and a mutual friend happened to be running the Guitar Center in Plano, in Texas. And I got an email the day I was going to leave to go to Dallas, which was hey, we have 30% off all our PRS stock. And immediately, being a big PRS fan, that kind of perked my attention up. The first year I went to the States, I bought a mirror, and the second year when we did our All I Want tour, I took my McCarty, and that was my only guitar, and I knew that the next year we went and toured, I wanted to have 2 guitars, mostly just so that I could, do less restringing, and also so that I had a safety net, in case anything happened at a show. So my interest in getting another guitar was really, really high. I had some money set aside to do it, and seeing this come up about the PRS stuff was really, really exciting. The other thing at the time, the Australian dollar was basically at parity, so these were super duper silly low prices compared to what you could get in Australia. So I emailed this guy at the Guitar Center, and he actually sent me a couple of photos of what they had in stock. And it's really funny because I found the photos looking through my old emails today, and the focus in 2 of them, you see this particular guitar kind of in the corner. And I didn't really notice it because I was looking at all the pretty flame tops and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, it comes around. I remember it was May 13th. 2014, and my wife went to work, and I borrowed her car, and I was like, right, I'm gonna go check out these guitars and see if there's one for me. And I saw them all hanging there on the wall, and I was like, this is super cool. And this was not in my line of sight at all. I was playing all the fancy flame top guitars, and I was kind of sitting there going, yeah, these are good, and the prices are really good, and none of them just really spoke to me. None was super inspiring to play. And I was basically a little bit bummed. I was like, oh, well, I've kind of played all the ones that I had my eye on, whatever. And then I looked at this one hanging up in the corner, and I was like, oh, I better, it looks pretty cool. It's black PRS. I'm sure it sounds fine. Just before I go, I'll try it. I always remember pulling it off the wall and holding it and immediately noticing the weight. It was like, oh, yeah, this is the perfect weight for someone like me. And I played a D chord on it, and I looked at the salesperson. I was just like, I'm going to buy this guitar. This is a one. I think it was about $1,500 American dollars or something. And, for reference now, to buy one of these guitars here in Australia, you're looking at way over 4,000 Australian dollars. So to buy a new guitar for that kind of price was pretty crazy, but it just immediately sounded good. It was just one of those moments, like a real Cinderella moment. It's just like the shoe fit. And he said, oh, don't you want to plug it in? And I was like, yeah, I better plug it in. And I sat down, and I just played and played. I probably played for about 15 minutes without looking up, without thinking about anything else. And yeah, I just knew this guitar was the one, and I ended up pretty much using it on every show for that tour. I remember the first 2 shows of the tour were in California, so we went out and played at the Whiskey, and I took my McCarty for those shows just because I was familiar with it. And then we played a festival in Oklahoma, and I played this guitar, and it was just outrageously good. It was the first time I'd played it live, and yeah, that was when I really knew, like, yeah, this is going to work. This is the perfect instrument for me. It's one of those gigs as well, which just, you know, the crowd response and the time and place and the tone and, you know, everything kind of worked. And anyway, we ended up doing that tour. The tour went really well. I played this guitar on just about every single show. I always remember pulling the McCarty out for one show, and after like 2 or 3 songs, putting it back and pulling this one out, even though it had older strings on it. And anyway, I took the guitar back home, and I had a session maybe about a month after I got back home for my buddy Mike Lyon, who had recorded an EP, and I took this guitar in to do some tracking. We tried a few other guitars, some Les Pauls and some Tellys and stuff, and I was like, hey, you know, let's try the PRS. And again, it was one of those things where it immediately sounded awesome. And it's a guitar that I ended up using for Ragdoll's Back to Zero album. I used it with a basically the tone for that is like this guitar with either an old Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, one of the 2-channel ones, or a Marshall DSL. And in the past, with recording guitars, I always tried to match guitars with different amps, just to sort of get a different character, but this one just worked so well. It just, yeah, you know, it just had it, whatever it is. And I'm sure if you've got a guitar like this that just works for you, you know what it is, and you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, ever since then, I've kind of been like, you know, bonded at the hip with this guitar, and it intones really well. It just, you can see me fogging up talking about it. So if you've seen the channel at all, no doubt you've heard this, but here's a couple of sound clips. I'll show you just a clip of it in the way I would normally use it for like a filthy high gain kind of thing, and then we'll have a listen to some crunch and some clean. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy that. If you've got a guitar that is the one for you, I want to know about it in the comments. So please let me know. Leave a comment, tell your little story. We can all share stories about our favorite guitars. And otherwise, my pretty much stock SC245, it's one of those things that it just came out of the factory right, and I'm eternally grateful that I found it at the time in my life that I did, because it's been such an inspiring tool for me, and it's kind of gone with me on this journey, and I really look forward to, you know, spending more time with it and bashing out more riffs and leads on it. So let's have a listen to it. You guys weigh in with your stories in the comments, and I will see you all real soon. Thank you so much for watching.